Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Learn British English Free on YouTube and on Facebook. My name is Chris. This lesson is another request, and it's from user Space Sirius from earlier in the year. Not so much of a lesson, more of a discussion with myself, I suppose. The question was about sort of teaching methodology. Now, to be honest, I haven't taught in a classroom since before COVID for obvious reasons. I still do lots of online teaching, and I will teach in class from September onwards. But I wanted to share some thoughts on this from my experience, which may or may not be useful for you. This is mainly for teachers, but for learners also. It would be interesting to understand your thoughts and comments. So please do write to us and let us know what you think about my ideas. In terms of teaching, then, we seem to be increasingly focused on exams. And for example, the IELTS exam, IELTS, which people need for example, traveling to the UK to study or to study in a university, you often have to do the IELTS exam specifically. And it sort of splits English into four areas: speaking, reading, writing, and listening. The area I wanted to mention was writing, because this is one that in class, I've noticed that a lot of people, especially teachers, don't like to focus on because it takes work. You know, it's boring a lot of the time. Teachers have to mark the things, which often creates extra work after class. And for students, they also don't like it because it takes time to write out and it's difficult. However, of course, writing is a really important part of English along with everything else. And someone I was talking to recently told me that if students don't practice writing, then their whole English sort of lacks a bit as well, which is an interesting way of looking at it. So the main point is, don't neglect writing, either as a teacher or as a student. It takes time and effort, but it's certainly worth it. And it's difficult to really improve at English significantly without practicing your writing. In terms of other things, as well as those four areas that are focused on by exams, we can also think of things like vocabulary, grammar, and games. What I've found is that you need to be flexible and to not be too focused or strict on certain areas, to try and mix things up as much as possible, even within lessons. Now, when I taught before in Cambridge, our lessons were 90 minutes each, which is quite long, to be honest. But at least it gives you plenty of time to do different things and to create variation in your lessons. And it's worth doing that in order to keep things interesting, but also to merge together those various skills in areas so that people can learn homogeneously. Linked to that, a really important area for me, both in terms of teaching a class and especially teaching people one-to-one, including online, is using your students, if you like, in terms of talking to them. What do they want to learn, or what's interesting for them? Now, of course, a lot of lessons or courses will be mandated. You have to learn certain things. I'm not saying not to do that, but in terms of the detail of the lessons, like I mentioned a minute ago, bringing in the different skills or the different aspects that you can use to create variation. Talk to them, say what's good, what's not, what is difficult for them, what do they want to learn? Because even though you'll have a set idea of what you need to cover, who better than the student or students to tell you what's difficult for them or what they need to know? I think it's really important to remember to include students in your lesson planning, because apart from anything else, it makes them feel more engaged as well, and they're much more likely to enjoy the lesson and participate fully if they feel that it's good for them. And so you can have a balanced conversation. Of course, as a teacher, it's your ultimate say as to what people need to do, but why not bring in some of their ideas as well? It makes it better for everyone, I think. And certainly the feedback I've had as a teacher reflects that. With technology as well, we have to really try to keep up to date as much as we can. It's not easy for everyone, but it is important. And again, I don't have much experience of this in recent years, but how do you use technology within the classroom? Really things change quickly, don't they, in this sort of area? So do your research online, talk to colleagues, find people who do it well, talk to students who've had good experiences. What do they like? What works for them in terms of technology and lessons, both in terms of using devices or technology, but also helping it to design your lessons. I'm not talking about ChatGPT, by the way, ChatGPT. And actually, sorry, I think that's it. It took less time than I expected. Again, to repeat, I don't have much recent experience of teaching in the classroom, but I've taught for many years, all levels. These are some of my ideas, and I'm a relatively sort of easygoing teacher. I'm not strict, as you might imagine. And although that seems controversial in terms of, when I talk about letting your students help you design the lessons, the feedback I've always had is very positive when you do that in the right way. And that would be the main thing that I've found to think about if you don't already. I mention it because people don't often talk about that. So those are my ideas. I'm glad to share them with you today. And thanks to user Space Serious for the suggestion. It was a good one. I hope you liked it. I'm very interested to learn your thoughts on what I've said. Please do write to me on YouTube and on Facebook. I do check the comments and reply to them. So yes, please do get in touch. And I'll try to make some more videos for you soon. So please stay tuned and keep subscribed to the channels. Thank you very much.